further ado, I know Alexia will do the best job of introducing herself, so I will stop talking.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining tonight. My name is Alexia Michitti. I will be graduating this May from here at SUNY Oneonta in May, so I'm very excited for that. I am currently a business administration major, and I transferred here in the fall of 2023. Also, along with that, my mom did go here, so I'm a legacy student, which was pretty exciting when I made the decision to come here. I'm also a motivational and public speaker. Along with that, I am a professional soccer player on the U.S. Women's Amputee National Soccer Team, and I also am a business owner. So, those are some titles about me, and let's just get started for today. So, growing up, I was the first child that my family was expecting. So, expecting your first kid, there's obviously a lot of emotions, lots of feelings that are coming to you. But one of those feelings was not expecting a child with a limb difference. You see, when I was born, there was no knowledge of me prior to being born that I was going to be born without my hand. I have a congenital absence of my right hand, so I was just born like this. But I had to learn how to do things in the two-handed world. But it wasn't just me. My parents also had to learn how to do things in the two-handed world. So simple things like crawling, eating, and just being able to stand up on my own were skills that became a real stressor of being able to master, but they did end up getting accomplished and I was able to do independently. So the codependent life that was predicted for me slowly and gradually started to shift to an independent life. And it wasn't just the simplest things that I could do easily. You see, for many people with two hands, the simplest things can be the hardest things for a person with a limb difference. So, for example, cutting a piece of chicken or putting my hair into a ponytail or even tying my shoes, those became my greatest challenges on a daily basis. You see, I couldn't put my hair in a ponytail unless my mom was able to assist me with it. Tying my shoes for soccer, even to date, I have to have someone else tie them to make sure they're tight enough for me when I'm in gameplay. And I can do all these things on my own now, but it took a lot of time. And with that being said, it wasn't always just a quick little walk in the park. I did face a lot of challenges mentally, not just physically. So I did face bullying growing up and feeling welcomed by certain people in the community of being different. So before I move to the next slide, I just want to walk you guys through the two little pictures up on the screen. So I believe the picture on the left is from me when I was 1 year old. I was crawling here. I just like to demonstrate I did do that at one point. Along with that is a picture of me at the first day of pre-K. I just thought it was a cute picture so you guys can get a gist of what I looked like when I was little. Um, so now let's talk about embracing who I was. So when I was younger, like I mentioned, and even to date, sometimes without me even realizing, I hid my hand a lot. So the picture on the left-hand side of the screen here is a picture of me on my first day of kindergarten. My mom is in the picture with me. She was a teacher at the elementary school that I attended. I am from Vestal, New York, so if you guys know where Binghamton is, that's where I went to Vestal School District. So this was me at Vestal Hills Elementary School, and I was hiding my hand behind my back on the first day of school. And I show the picture to the right because this is a picture of me on my senior night for soccer, and I was still doing the same thing 13 years later. So, although I did face bullying and comments and challenges over the years, I did learn to eventually overcome them and showcase who I was rather than hide my hand. When I was a freshman in college, I went to Ithaca College at the time, and I was really struggling with feeling accepted by others. I remember the first few weeks of school being a freshman in college, and I felt like everyone was staring at me. And I would be going to class in 80-degree weather with a sweatshirt on just to hide my hand. And it was a terrible feeling, but I felt like that was the only option that I had to do to just feel like I could fit in. And as time goes on, it's crazy to think that was something that I used to do, but it felt like it was right. So I was able to get over this hump of hiding who I was and learning to embrace myself. And one of the ways was with sports, and that would be soccer. So I started playing soccer when I was 3 years old. I tried soccer out for the first time when I was three, and I hated it. And I said I was never going to do it again. Ironically, I tried it again a little bit later that year, and I liked it a little bit more, and it was a little more tolerable. But as the time went on, my appreciation and love for the game grew and grew more. So the picture of me on the left-hand side of me when I was a little kid, yes, hiding my hand behind my back. I'm wearing one of my dad's old white t-shirts that was shrunken in the dryer many, many times. And I took an old black Sharpie and I wrote the Nike check mark on it and then the USA logo with the Sharpie. And I would pretend that I was on the US women's national soccer team because I thought that one day that was going to happen. You see, I finally got to the middle school and high school age, and I realized that dream probably wasn't happening. I did play competitive soccer growing up. I played for Vestal High School, helped win many championships and stuff like that there. Made a lot of friends from it, which was awesome. And then finally got to the age where I had to make the decision if I was going to play in college. I soon continued my career at Ithaca College and played soccer there for 1 year in the NCAA, but decided it was no longer for me. But during that year of playing in the NCAA, I was introduced to amputee soccer in December of 2021. This man named Eli Wolf, I had to interview him for one of my classes at Ithaca, and he mentioned that they were looking for a guest speaker as a student athlete in the NCAA with a disability, and they wanted me to be the speaker for about 5 minutes at the U.S. Disability Soccer Awareness Month. So I spoke for 5 minutes, and the president of U.S. Amputee Soccer reached out to me and said, "Hey, why don't you come down to Long Island and try this out?" And I said, "Okay, sure." So, excuse me. So I went down to Long Island and I tried out amputee soccer. Some things about amputee soccer is one, you don't actually have to be an amputee to play amputee soccer. It's just if you're limb different. That's just what it classifies as. The next thing you should know is that in amputee soccer, the goalkeepers are missing all or part of their arm. That's not it though. You also have to tuck your arm inside of your shirt and have it taped to your body. I did not know that prior to going to Long Island, so that was definitely a big hump that I was not aware of. And then the field players are missing all or part of one of their legs, and they use crutches to run. So this middle picture that I have up here, you can see some of them holding the crutches or using them to stand. That is how they run during the game. Some other things to think about is goalkeepers are not allowed to leave their box. So when I played able-bodied soccer, I was the one helping score the goals and make plays happen and running all over the field. And I could no longer do that. I was constricted into this box. So there were so many rules and so many things to learn, but it did help me at the time fall back in love with soccer when I was starting to get to a point where I no longer was ready to continue with my career. With that being said, I had the amazing opportunity, not once but twice, to go to Gillette Stadium where the New England Patriots play to compete at halftime with the other regional U.S. amputee soccer teams. So there was a New York team at the time and a New England team at the time. I was obviously playing for the New York team, and we got to play at halftime in front of about 30,000 people, which was pretty cool. The first year, it was a disaster. I had never played in an amputee soccer game before. I probably got at least 15 goals scored on me. I had a rough time, but the second time, which is the picture in the middle, we only lost 3-0, and it was a lot more fun to play in that game. So it was definitely hard though playing with the men. They're obviously very strong, very fit. Their shots are very hard. But at the end of this year, in May 2023, I had the opportunity to fly out to California and have the first ever women's amputee soccer camp. And there was just 4 women at the time. 2 of them had never played soccer in their life before. And we all were able to come together and just get the ball rolling for something that would end up becoming much bigger. Later that year in the summertime, the men's coach, which was the team was really co-ed at the time of the national team, said, "Hey, Alexia, you have the chance to try out for the national team if you'd like for this tournament we have in Poland coming up in September." So I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll try out." In the meantime, while I was getting ready for the tryouts, we were able to pull enough women together to bring a team also to Poland. So I was the first woman to ever be able, first player ever to play on a national and women's national team because our national team was still co-ed. And I went to Poland in my first semester at Oneana in the fall of 2023. When I got there, some of my teammates had never touched a soccer ball in their life until literally that game day. And some of them even lost their leg weeks, if not months, before they had gotten there. Now, the Polish women's national team, to paint the picture, they practiced twice a month on a regular basis and had been for at least 2 years before this game. So it wasn't looking too good for our team. But we ended up only losing 1-0. And although we lost, this game was way bigger than the score. It was the first ever women's amputee soccer game that was played. And it was an amazing feeling to not only be a part of that, but to be able to wear the US jersey legitimately for the first time. So the picture on the right is a picture of me after the game. I was named as the team MVP after the game, which was awesome. And I like to show these two pictures side by side of me when I was in second grade with the makeshift USA jersey and the actual USA jersey because it shows that I was able to come that far and circle back to a childhood dream that I had had. So, sorry. With that being said, this brings me to one of the biggest accomplishment I've ever had in my soccer journey, personally. So, 3 months ago now, because we're in February, I went to Colombia in November of 2024 to compete in the first ever Women's Amputee Soccer World Cup. Now we went from having 2 teams in the world to now having 12 teams, all competing to win the first ever Women's Amputee Soccer World Cup. We played a bunch of different teams. The first team we played was Ukraine. It was a very eye-opening experience just being able to talk with them after. Their team, their head coach had to leave to go back to the front line while we were down there. A lot of the women had unfortunately lost their limbs from the war, and it really brought myself and my teammates' perspective. It really changed it for us and showed like what else is going on in the world, and like just having this community for them. It was incredible to be able to just be a part of something together and so welcoming. And so we played Ukraine, we played El Salvador, and we won both of those games, or Ecuador. And we played both of those games and we won. So we made it through our group division, and then we moved to the quarterfinals. Now we were playing England, and I think we all underestimated how good they are. And they came out and put up a strong fight, and we ended up having to go into penalty kicks. Now, if you don't know what a penalty kick is, it is when it's just the goalkeeper and the person kicking the ball, and it's 1v1 and the ball doesn't move and they just shoot it and I have to save it. So we went through the game and we managed to win, and we made it to the semifinals. And I said to my teammates that night, "Hey, this was fine. We won. This cannot happen again. We are not going into penalty kicks." That's what happened in the semifinals. We went into penalty kicks again. And we were playing Poland. So it was a big rival game, lots of energy. Everyone was nervous. We ended up winning the penalty kicks a second day straight. I ended up picking one of my coaches up. That's one of the pictures that is on the screen. She looked scared. I promise she was okay. And then we moved on to the final to play against Colombia. This was definitely the craziest game. Obviously, it's World Cup final, but you're playing the home host country. The crowd was crazy. There was so many fans, so many emotions going on, and we managed to go into penalty kicks a third game straight. And it was definitely stressful. We ended up losing by 1 goal in the penalty kicks. Very emotional at the end, but I know that I personally gave all my all, and I know that after talking with my teammates after, I couldn't have been more proud of all of them and everything that they had given in that final game and at the whole tournament itself. So we ended up taking home silver, which is the first ever hardware that the USA has ever brought in home for amputee soccer. Along with that, during closing ceremonies, I was awarded with the Golden Glove, which is the best one-handed female goalkeeper award in the world. So that was pretty cool as well. There's a picture of me in the locker room wearing it. I'm repping SUNY Oneonta alumni, so just want to give that little shout out. And yeah, so those are some pictures from that experience as well. So that's a little bit about my soccer career and that story of the World Cup. But now I want to start shifting towards my company. So at the end of my first year of college at Ithaca, I was laying in my dorm one day, scrolling mindlessly on TikTok, and I got this idea out of nowhere, and it didn't have anything to do that I was watching. It literally just hit me out of nowhere. And it was like an idea that was flowing like crazy. And I had papers all over my wall. Like I was so deep in thought. I was like 3 hours in. My teammates were knocking on my door because they were worried about me. And I knew that I was onto something. So after I got all of my ideas out, I put all of them in a drawer and I like left it and walked away. And normally, I'm the type of person that plans like 7 years in advance and knows what I'm eating for dinner in like 2035. But after my first year at Ithaca, I didn't even know what if I would be returning to the school in the following year. And I met with my senior year of high school business teacher. And I said, hey, like I hit a wall. I don't really know what I want to do with my life. And she said, Alexia, I know you're a very creative person. Why don't you look in one of your notebooks that you have with all of your ideas and why don't you put some thought into it? And I, and she was right. So I have always been a creative person. I've always thought of a bunch of different things. I'd come up with them in my room, walk down the stairs, present it to my parents. They'd be like, I don't know about that. Then I'd go back up, think of something else, come back down. I don't really know about that one either. Well, finally, I came down and I presented them with the idea of making adaptive clothing for people with limb differences. And they finally said, that's a good idea. And I was like, this is great because now I feel like I'm onto something. So I put all this time. I ended up transferring to SUNY Broome my sophomore year of college. That whole year, I put time into building my company, what it could be, what I needed to make this happen. So, what for starters, what does my company sell? Because you're probably like, what is that? So, as I mentioned before, I would always hide my hand. My sleeve would always be too long, so I'd always have to fold it off, bunch it up at my elbow. I'd get it wet when I was washing my hands. It was always uncomfortable, inconvenient. And I realized that soon was an issue for other people in the limb different community. So my company sells clothing. I'm not wearing a shirt right now because I'm sweating, but I sell clothes for the wrist length, elbow length, and shoulder length, and then the hip length, the knee length, and the shin length. So in these pictures right here, I'm wearing an example of the wrist length, so it's just above my limb difference. The picture all the way to the right is Talia. She's one of my teammates. She was one of my roommates when I was down in Columbia, and she's wearing a knee length. And she likes these pants because she can easily access her prosthetic, take it on, or take it off, put it on, easily access it, all that stuff, and really just have a more comfortable piece of clothing that fits your body. So many things throughout my sophomore year of college happened. I filed for an LLC and became a legitimate business. I did many business competitions, and was just trying to find money to fund this business. But the other thing that I decided to do was to apply for a patent. So I applied for a patent. It took a lot of time. Patents are very expensive, so I had to find all the funding for that. And it finally was published in this past February of 2024, which was super exciting. So with that being said, this all just didn't happen overnight. There's so many points I've hit, sorry, where I wanted to just give up or thought this was ridiculous and it wouldn't work or it wasn't even going to be worth my time. But I've been able to overcome that. And I would be lying to you if I still don't think I'm a little crazy for doing all of this. But I know that the product can make a difference in people's life one day. So, and I've been able to see that too, just having conversations or sharing this product with people. I launched my business in April online, but I launched it officially in person in July up in Michigan at a upper limb different conference that is had every year. And I remember this woman was buying a shirt and I had a mirror there and I had it there so people could see themselves if they needed to make sure that it looked the way they wanted to. And she started crying because she was so happy out of the 40 something years she's been alive that a piece of clothing finally fit her properly. And it really touched me and it touched my family when we saw that because we knew how much potential this could have and make an effect on other people's lives. Now, the picture in the middle here is a picture of me on FaceTime. Um, for those of you that don't know who that person is, which I'm assuming a lot of people don't, that is Shaquem Griffin. He's the first ever one-handed football player to play in the NFL. He came to an event that was happening actually the same weekend that I launched my business when I was in Michigan. And my aunt and my grandma were able to present him with a shirt made for his wrist length that he can wear. And he ended up FaceTiming me saying thank you, which was pretty awesome. And I have been able to keep in touch with him since. And it's been an awesome connection to have made. And I'm super thankful for that as well. So I know probably a lot of you are like, why Embrace? So let me explain my logo to you all real quick. So my company is called Embrace, as in embrace yourself. The M is supposed to look a little bit amputated like me. And then my number for soccer is 13, and I wanted to keep a piece of myself within the logo. But when you look at the 13, when you look at it up close, it looks like a 13. But when you look at it from far away, it's supposed to look like a B, just like a person with a limb difference. When you look at someone with a limb difference up close, you can tell. But when you look at them from far away, you can't really tell. So that's a little bit about my logo. So with all of this being said, I do have to mention this. My company is currently in the running to be featured in Forbes magazine. I could win $25,000 and get mentoring from Damon from Shark Tank, which is pretty cool. I applied for it while I was home for winter break and I didn't tell my family. And then I got a notification after work one day that I was in the running for this and I was super excited and I started freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone needs to vote for me. So I did want to mention that because it was pretty cool. Um, but all of this also wouldn't have happened if I haven't had great support from my parents, believing in the idea, supporting it, driving me, flying all the way down to Colombia to be there for the World Cup meant a lot. I've a great sister who always is making, she's my biggest critic. If I know something went well or looks good or whatever it may be, I know if she says it's good, I believe it. You know, after the World Cup, I gave her a phone call and she was the first person I called after the World Cup, and it was just silent on the phone. And I knew that it wasn't what we both had been expecting or hoping for. But she's like, you know what, you did all right. It's okay, and I am grateful for that. You know, I've a close group of friends that have been supportive throughout the way, and for the Oneana community, you know, they threw me a little welcome back party, and I know everyone was watching while I was down in um Columbia, and I have had some very supportive professors and community here since I've gotten here with all the things I have done, and I really appreciate all of that as well. And just for everyone on the call, if you do have an idea in your life and you think it might not make a difference in people's lives, but you personally do, I highly recommend just seeing how far you can take that idea and see how big of an impact you can make on other people, because you truly don't know how big something can become until you put the time towards it. And even if it's something super small, you don't know how big it could turn, and it doesn't have to turn big. If you know it's affecting people's lives in a positive way, then I highly recommend that you just keep going with it. And yeah, so that's my story. And if we're good, we can start switching to questions now. I did put my Instagram and my personal email. I do speak publicly at places. I speak at schools and stuff like that. So if you have any questions about that or anything, feel free to email me or message me. And I also put a QR code to my website if you want to check out the clothes I sell as well. But thank you.
So much for sharing your story, Alexia. I know we've met a little bit here and there, but I did not know all of the details. I'll recover in a bit. We have some questions starting to come into the chat, and one that came in from Bryn first. Did your parents encourage you to try other sports or activities growing up as well? And what are some hobbies, or what are some other hobbies you have, and how do you navigate those?
Yeah, so I actually played basketball for a lot of my life, probably as long as soccer until I graduated high school. Um, I did try softball at one point. I did not like it. Nothing against softball, it just wasn't for me. Um, I I played basketball for a long time. I do like playing sports in general. Like I would play football on the playground with my friends when I was in elementary school. I like to play floor hockey, all of that stuff. I did learn how to ski. I do not use poles for skiing if anyone had that type of question. It's just me, the skis, and the hill, and a prayer, I guess. Um, as far as hobbies, though, I do like to cook. I have had to figure out how to like safely chop an onion, for example, or potatoes or stuff like that, peeling potatoes. Those are all things that I've had to really learn over the years. But I would say cooking is probably one of my bigger hobbies right now that I do enjoy. I also freestyle, which it is soccer, but it's kind of different. So I do a bunch of crazy tricks with a soccer ball, so I can like balance the ball on my head, catch it on my back, swing my feet all over the place. I used to freestyle with the New York Red Bulls, which is one of the Major League Soccer teams, which was pretty fun when I did that in high school. And I like to share those tricks and teach little kids how to do those as well when I speak at schools and other places like that as well. Oh, Sarah, I think you're muted.
Yeah. Think it had to happen to one of us, right?
Oh, you're good.
Uh,
That's why I haven't turned mine off yet.
um, so you have been talking. Oh, wait. Two questions just came through the chat at the same time. So uh, the first one is from Brienne. Thank you for sharing, Alexia. How do you think communities or individuals could better support people with limb differences?
Good question. So, and my answer may different than other people who are part of the limb different community. I just want to advise that to everyone on here. Um, I know for myself and several other people I've talked to in the community, but I won't speak for everyone. Oftentimes, for myself at least, I do what I can, but if I know that I can't do something, then I will ask for help. I do appreciate when people offer help, but I don't always need the help. I will just say no, thank you. But sometimes other people do not like that. But I do think that accommodations are extremely helpful. You know, last fall of 2023, I do have accommodations here. I don't know if I'm really allowed to say that or not, but I have a hard time writing for a long time because of overuse for my left hand. So I was able to get those through the school, which was super nice. Voice to text is another form of adaptation, I guess I should say, that I've made since from transitioning from high school to college, being able to have that option. I know I studied abroad last year in the spring, and everything in Italy is handwritten for tests. And the school over there was very accommodating to let me do all of my exams, not just online, but voice text them. So I didn't have to overuse my hand. Um, so I know that was part of the question. Was there another part of that question too that she had asked? If you don't
There
mind
are
repeating
related
it.
questions in the chat,
Okay.
but well, I found that very helpful as an educator too, actually. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, of
That was great. So we have another one from Bryn. Do you have or use a prosthetic? Why or why not? I admire how you embrace your limb difference and how confident you are.
Yes, so I have, thank you. So I have a prosthetic. I've had many different ones over the years. When I was in first grade, I got like a body powered one. So if I reached forward, it would close the hand, and if I reached back, it would open it. But I had like a harness over my left shoulder. It was like a whole thing. That was also like 2008. Fast forward to when I was second transitioning into third grade, I got my first myoelectric hand, which when I closed my hand, it would close, and when I opened it, it had opened it. I personally did not like that one. I thought I could just operate better without it, and so I after that prosthetic, I actually didn't get a new one until I was in eighth grade, which was an activity specific one for weightlifting. I was reaching a point in my soccer career where I was a lot smaller than my competitors, and I was getting taken out, I guess, in games because of how small I was. And then I got a better version of that prosthetic when it was time to go to college. I've had that one since for weightlifting. I use it almost every day. I am getting a new one this summer, which is very exciting because it's been 4 years. But I do use a prosthetic almost every day, but for weightlifting specifically. And it's called an activity specific prosthetic. It's got a bunch of different attachments that you can take out and switch out and put it back in. Um, you can get like a golfing one if you want. There's even one for pool for people that like to play pool. So there's a bunch of different ones that you can have with it.
Wow, now I'm imagining all of the different like possible attachments that could be useful in that. Yeah. So we have one from Miranda. Other than your family, what or who are your strong motivators in your life?
That's a good question. Um, so growing up, I would say there was two people in the limb different community that you could really look up to. That would be Jim Abbott. He was the pitcher that threw the no hitter from the Yankees. I actually had the opportunity to meet him. My parents brought my sister and I down to meet him, and he gave me pointers on how to tie my shoes, which was pretty cool. And I ended up tying my shoes a couple weeks later. Um, and I was also featured in his movie, if you guys ever see it. And then Bethany Hamilton, she's a one-armed surfer. Those were two people that I had the chance to look up to growing up, but you couldn't easily talk to them, if you had questions or whatever it may be. So growing up, I have always made it a point to myself to make sure that I could be a role model for the next kid, boy, girl, whoever, or even adult growing up, to be there for them and to be someone that they could look up to. And I really take that I take that very personally. And I would say that was probably my biggest motivator to date. I was giving a talk over the weekend, and I spoke about how the other goalkeeper from my team, Addie is her name. She was a little girl that I met when I was little, and then we happened to reconnect when I was in high school, and then again after Poland. And she became a player on our team. And not only did we get to play together, we got to go to the World Cup together. And I almost became like a mentor to her. And I talk to her all the time now. And having that chance, I know that I personally had one of my goals meet, and having the chance to showcase that and be there for her and other kids growing up with limb difference, I would say that would be my biggest motivation.
I have a feeling that some people would put you on their list of biggest motivators. Just throwing that out there. We have another one here in the chat from Jessica. She's asking, how would you encourage a child who is facing and overcoming challenges, like a kid who is in the area where there's a lack of accessibility or a person who feels singled out due to their prosthetic?
So there's okay. So for that, I would not say, sorry, I need a second. So for people growing up who may be having a hard time, even if they aren't feeling maybe welcomed in the community or forever, whatever it may be, I I can't say that it is always going to be easy. You know, there were times where I personally felt by myself alone. I wasn't introduced to the limb different community until I was a sophomore in high school. I think even growing up, you know, there was the few bullies and whatever it was, but there was always more kind people than not. So I would suggest for this person remembering the good people and appreciating them for what they can do and keeping track of the little wins, you know, the smallest things that you can get done throughout the day, even if it seems like the biggest challenge. Like I know like I will never forget the day that I was able to like put these earrings and you can't really see them because I'm wearing AirPods. I'm wearing like little stud earrings, but like that was like I was so excited that day just because I had gotten such a little thing that would be to someone else done. I was able to accomplish it. And I guess that would be my suggestion to you is like just appreciate the little things. Like even if it's like a lower limb prosthetic, like and you were able to like do like one stair or like 5 stairs up, like make sure you give yourself the credit that you deserve. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've struggled throughout my life is giving yourself a second to like be like, hey, you did that, you did a good job, you know. And I honestly didn't even start doing that until probably a year ago after even Poland, like, and I think that's really important and something that I really believe now is giving yourself the credit for the little things that you're doing because it really can go way further than you can think because it will start building up over time. I hope that answers your question.
I think that's great advice for any of us. Yeah. Um, yes, I'll take it. I'll take it with me. We have a question from River. Hi, Alexia. Your story is so inspiring. As you know, as humans, we are ever growing. So, is there anything you're still trying to grow upon, or how do you plan to go about it? Basically, what is the next challenge to overcome?
Yeah, so right now, I guess literally would be school. I am almost done. I think this has been a good but very challenging challenge, I guess. So I think that's the main thing that I'm focusing on right now. You know, I am wrapping up school, so I'm thinking about what is next for me. So I guess those would be the challenges right now that I am thinking about the most. Um, if that is that good for
Yes.
the question? That
I
I
think
guess
so.
that's what the biggest challenge would be right now is last semester, you know, staying focused and everything, which I think I'm doing okay with right now. But yeah.
Yeah, um I should know better than asking a senior in their last year like what your next plan is because it just instantly it's like triggering. I'm just teasing. I
No,
think
it's okay. People can ask.
I'm totally just teasing. I had a student do it today. And this is a very much related question. In fact, they've been coming very related. So very little moderating needed here tonight. After graduation, do you plan to keep playing soccer, focusing on your business or public speaking? You are great at it all. And then another question that is very much related in this same thread. Andrea is saying, do you have aspirations for competition or coaching in the future? And that might be not the next step, but maybe it's the next step.
Yeah. So I'll combine the coaching slash competing part with the playing soccer aspect. I will probably be wrapping up my soccer career pretty soon with college as well. I although I am very young and have probably way more in the tank, I need to start shifting my life a little bit because my life is going to be changing now post college. Although I may not be playing, I know that I do want to stay involved with amputee soccer and adaptive sports as a whole. Um, if that's coaching one day, I would not mind that at all. I have had coaching experience before and I do enjoy it, and I love sharing my personal thoughts and views on the game with other people and seeing wins happen, or whatever it may be. So I'd love to do that one day. Probably not for a couple years, but hopefully one day. Um, and then as far as I guess my plans after school, I will be focusing on my business and I will be a public speaker and speaking at schools and businesses, or whoever is willing to have me share my story about my making an impact and all other things on how I can help other people spread the word about even positivity and hopefully just to continue also growing my business. But after college, that is what my plan is. So I have a different way of my career looking. So I will not just be hopping into a job. This is my job, and I will be spending a lot of time on it. And although it is a little scary to think about as a college student when you're making that decision, I think it's the best one for me, and I'm up for the challenge. So yeah.
That's cool. So we heard it here first. You're going all in on this business.
Yes.
That's so exciting. Good for you. We've got a question from Jessica. What changes or additions would you like to see in the sports world?
I think one of the biggest things that I have noticed since being involved with U.S. disabilities soccer specifically is having the players who are part of whatever the disability group may be more of the coaching aspect. One of the biggest things I've learned, and this does not just apply to amputee soccer, it applies to cerebral palsy soccer, blind soccer, deaf soccer, dwarf soccer, power soccer, which is wheelchair, all of them, is many coaches are not disabled with the disability that they are coaching. And that is nothing against any of the coaches that are coaching the teams right now, but I think that that's a huge factor when you're coaching all of this is you have to be able to put yourself into the player's shoes and wherever they may be coming from in their position. And I think that's super important. So that's one thing I hope. Another thing, and I've been saying this since I was in high school to my friends, but many people with disabilities, and I won't speak for everyone, but they want to just be treated like the next person. So I remember in a lot of my college interviews, I said I wanted to help break the barrier between disabled and able-bodied sports, and how can we make that merger kind of happen? And I'm hoping that one day, although that may not fully happen just because of physical difference and whatever it may be, how can the treatment be different and how can we start to make that shift start to happen? So an opportunity in general. I mean I was what 18 when I found out about all of this stuff. I went all that time without even knowing what adaptive sports was, and that's not a knock at like any one. My parents had me treat myself. They treated me like any other person, and I'm grateful for that. So just making sure these opportunities are aware, and available for other people, so they're aware of it.
That's really good to know. And I have a follow-up question for you then. If people wanted to become a little maybe more aware of what's out there in the sports world for folks who are differently abled, what were maybe your 2 or 3 top hits, top hotspots that we could go?
So UASA is a good organization that I suggest everyone looks at. The woman who runs it, she was actually my boss when I worked for US Disability Soccer. I worked for them for about 2 years. After that initial call with them, they asked me to join their Adapt and Thrive team. There we helped make this kind of formal document of proper terms to say, you should say this instead of this, saying this instead of this. I didn't even know a lot of them. I'm sure some of the things I'm even saying now were probably not the right thing to say, but there's a lot of things in the document. But UASA would be a good website. It is advertised as soccer, but the links and additional things on there, they are good. Lucky Fin Project is a good company that I always like to promote there, where they're the company that I launched my business at. They have a lot of links for people with limb differences, along with other places that you can go to find other companies as well. I'm trying to think of another one. Those are probably the 2 best ones I would recommend at this time. Yeah.
You so much. I think, I think I have my night planned out. Go take a look at some of this stuff. I think we have there's a question. No, there was someone typing into the chat and then it went away. So I wanted to, there was a question earlier in the, there we go. There's that delay we were talking about. Okay. What are your thoughts about increasing TV coverage of adaptive sports and Paralympics? For your business, are you hoping to market with suppliers for the Paralympic Games?
Yes. So there's a couple pieces to that. So I think as the years have gone on, I think the coverage of the Paralympic Games has gotten bigger and bigger. Especially for this past Summer Olympics, I know a couple Olympians that were over there, and it was very cool to see how far it has come with all of it. Even just general opportunity, afterwards, you see the Olympians that won gold, they came back and then they do all these crazy things that they're on Dancing with the Stars, all the things, and although the Paralympians may not have been on there, I know that there were other opportunities. They got invited to go to the White House, so it was pretty cool. There's a bunch of other things that they were able to do that they had not necessarily done from what I've seen in the past. As for being part of the Paralympics one day as a supplier or something like that, I think that would be a super awesome collab to do one day. If anyone knows any connections at Ralph Lauren, I would love to help the Paralympians walk out and properly fit in their clothes. So if anyone on the call knows anyone, that would be awesome. But I think that honestly, probably for me personally, would be one of my biggest goals is not just for them to walk out, but to be in competition properly, the most comfortable they can be while they're competing. So these lights are motion sensor. That's why I keep reaching out. So sorry, but yeah, that was my thoughts on that. I do wish that my games for the World Cup were they were live streamed on YouTube, but I wish that they were on ESPN Plus or something like that. So hopefully one day as the sports get bigger, but we're getting there. So better than it was. So yeah.
Wow, that is, I think, a really great spot to maybe, see if there's any last questions or anything. I'll see if anyone's typing into the chat, but we are kind of coming up on that time when I think I was told to maybe start winding it down a little. So, Alexia, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story. It was really exciting to get the chance to hear it tonight. And I know there's lots of alum on the call, so I am manifesting that Ralph Lauren connection for you. You are also like giving coach. I see coach. So, oh, I didn't mean that as the fashion brand, but I meant you could be a coach. Anyhow, so thank you so much for all of your time. I think I'm stalling for a minute because I see someone is typing, but it could also just be more kudos, and I'm going to guess that that's what's happening. Yes, thank you so much. We've got, I think probably the chat's about to flood with thank yous. So the first one's from Jessica. I think you can probably open it now that you close all your screens. So thank you everybody for coming tonight. I really appreciate all of your time.
Thank you all, and thank you to Alumni Engagement for putting this together. I really appreciate it.
I realized I missed a great opportunity for my SUNY Oneonta mug. Rookie mistake. Won't happen again.